Welcome to the 323 podcast, where we look at how faith and work intersect. Each week, we talk to business leaders and difference makers about honoring God in the way we lead, create, and serve, because in everything we do, our work can reflect the one we serve. Welcome back to the 323 podcast. If you're a new listener, thank you for joining us. Every week, we are talking to Christian business owners and leaders about the intersection of faith, work, and leadership. Colossians 3:23 says, "Whatever you do, work at it with all your heart, as working for the Lord and not for human masters, since you know that you will receive an inheritance from the Lord as a reward. It is the Lord Christ you are serving." Our goal here is to inspire listeners to more deeply integrate their Sunday faith into their Monday life. Today, my guest is Paulina Longenbaugh, a commercial and residential realtor in El Paso with Cornerstone Realty. Paulina works with individuals, families, and business owners as they make some of the most significant financial decisions of their lives. She operates in a fast-paced and competitive industry where trust, integrity, and sound judgment matter deeply. Today, we're going to talk about leadership, faith, and commercial real estate. Welcome to the 323 podcast, Paulina.
Thank you for having me.
Let's get started by telling me, if you could tell me a little bit about how you found your way into real estate in El Paso.
Well, I will make a very long story short. So I went to school in New York City. I went to NYU, and my major was in something not at all related to real estate. It was political and transnational and cultural communication.
Oh, wow. That's a mouthful.
Yes, I can barely remember that. And my minor was in production. My dream was to be a war reporter. And I just believed in telling other stories. Mm. So I graduated university. I moved back home. I was a bump on a log for a year. I had just gotten married. And my husband is a police officer with El Paso Police and was at the time too. And my dad was a realtor, and he said, "You really need to get a job." And I said, fine. He said, "Get into real estate." He was a realtor. And he said, "You're going to be great at it. Just do something, please." So I begrudgingly said, fine, I'll take the classes. So I took the classes. I took the test. I'm a good test taker. It was just pure luck. And it's my blessing. And my first year in real estate, I hustled, and I did as well as a 6-year agent did.
Wow.
And I really genuinely liked helping people. Yeah. Like it was easy. It was organic. I am definitely the person who will not do something they don't want to do.
Yeah.
And it's funny how God works, right? But that's how I fell into it.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
It is just such a theme as I speak to leaders of, I had this plan. I was going to do this. And God stepped in and said, nope, you are going to do something else. Yeah. And then his plans are good. And we see how faithful he is when we follow his plan, when we follow his leading, that he really leads us to where he wants us. That's amazing. Tell me a little bit, in the midst of all that, your faith journey. What did that look like?
My faith journey started really in high school. So I come from a single, my mom was a single mom. Mm-hmm. I had my dad, but it was very much, I was kind of raising myself. And in the midst of all this, I was getting into a lot of trouble. My freshman year of high school, my grandmother was passing away, and I was with some friends, probably doing nothing good. And my dad called me and said, "Your grandmother's passing soon. You might want to come say goodbye." So I went to her house, and I wasn't close to her at all. She had her own very troubled past, but found God. And the first thing she told me, she looked at me, and she just looked right through me, and she said, "You need to go to church." Oh, wow. And it struck a chord because I was in a very dark place in my life. I felt darkness. And I started going to church almost immediately. Like that next weekend, I went to Western Hills Methodist Church. I'll never forget it. And I went into my first service by myself. I don't even know how I got there. I think I might have been 16. Maybe I drove there by myself.
Wow.
And I remember the first service, the choir was singing, and I just started crying. And that day I was saved. I mean, after that, I went to church every single week by myself.
Wow.
And my life started getting better. God started speaking into my life, and I started listening and making better decisions, right, that he was presenting me with. So I went to church by myself all through high school. Through college in New York City, I found the most incredible Methodist church on the Upper West Side. I mean, you go there and it just will bring you to tears. The choir there has a bunch of New York City opera singers. I mean, it's just like, you can't help but be moved when you go there. And in college and in New York by yourself as a young woman, right?
Yeah.
Like, those are many weekends of crying.
Yeah.
And so I moved back home, and we got married, and I've always gone back to church, right, where no one's perfect. But especially now having children, I'm very glad to say that my husband grew up with in a family that went to church, but they stopped. And I was able to lead my family back to God, and we're really raising our children that way. So that's been my journey. That's so cool. It was embedded in me in high school in a very dark time, and I know that I cannot do this life by myself, nor do I want to. It's very much I follow his instructions.
Praise the Lord. That's amazing. I love that story. You don't hear that very often of a teenager who takes that kind of initiative. So cool to hear that. When you look back on early in your career, what kind of lessons did you see God teaching you then that you're using today?
It's funny. I always recall one particular set of clients, right? Because I've worked with clients who are selling $1 million property, commercial clients who are leasing multi-million-dollar properties. But the ones that stick out the most in particular is an older couple. They were parents of a police officer who I had helped before. And they were disabled. Severely disabled. I mean, mom was in a long-term care facility.
Okay.
Dad couldn't drive. I mean, so anyway, they called me one day. Would you be willing to help us? We have very, modest means. We're not going to be able to buy anything fancy. Do you even work with people like us? Yeah. Is what I get a lot. And that transaction turned into months of me having to pick up this gentleman, take him to see homes, take him to the bank. I mean, just bizarre stuff that I really would not typically do. But in all of this to say, in my job, when I find myself doing things that I don't really want to do, right? I wasn't doing that totally joyfully every day when this gentleman, who was so wonderful and kind and had very much dad humor all the time.
I love it.
When I'd have to drive him and really spend hours and hours and hours. I mean, I ended up losing money on that deal when you break it down, but my job was to serve them.
Yeah.
And I did that with my whole heart. And till this day, he'll call me, and I'm just reminded that I was able to put him in a good place. His wife has since passed, unfortunately, and life has changed for that family a lot. Yeah. But I've been privy to and privileged enough to be told about what's going on with them. So really humbling myself to serve everybody has been something that I'm not perfect. I don't just like wake up and have this thought gladly every day. But when I'm doing things like that are particularly difficult or time consuming, or I'm like, this isn't going to be a good rate of return on my investment of time, I remind myself that God put me on earth to serve people this way.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, you really can't serve people that way if you are not tapping into the source yourself. So tell me a little bit, what rhythms do you have in your life that really keep you connected to God and to your faith, so that when those moments come that you do have to step out and serve, that you're prepared, your heart, your mind, your spirit is prepared?
I have learned to, it's funny, in church this weekend, our pastor talked about community, how we were meant to have a community, how Eve was created for Adam, right? And I have been very blessed in my life with the relationships that I've built, especially my friendships with women, God-centered women, that have evolved, and they are my sounding board. I mean, my best friend Amanda, who I co-own a company with, a short-term rental company with, when we manage our properties, we own two big rental properties together.
Okay.
And we've had seasons of financial hardship with these properties.
Yeah.
One's in Ruidoso. We went through the fires. Everything around our cabin burnt. Then the floods. I mean, just thing after thing. But we always go back to, what does God want us to do? And it's so refreshing to be able to have those conversations with her and say, like, what is God wanting us to do right now? And so, you know, she's my main person. She's like my sounding board, my moral compass when it comes to almost every aspect of my life. But I have other great friends. Jeannie Stringfield's one of them. I go to her Bible study that she generously puts on for us during busy season. A lot of us are moms.
Yeah.
So it's just surrounding yourself with people who are faith-centered, God-centered, God-fearing people who will be honest with you and or help you come back into his walk, right?
Yes.
Because we're not perfect and everybody goes through things, but that keeps me grounded.
I love that answer because it's maybe not the first thing that would normally come to people's minds, right? We often think, well, you know, I spend time in prayer, I spend time in the Word, you know, I go to church every Sunday. Those are all very important things. They're very good to be feeding yourself, to be spending time with the Lord. But community is one that it's so easy to forget the importance of surrounding yourself, not exclusively, but making sure you have people who are encouraging you in your walk with God.
Yeah.
And so I think that's a great reminder to listeners. So you've got small kids at home. Being a working mom is not easy. Is there anything you've learned in business that has helped you be a better parent or vice versa?
Oh, my goodness. I would say vice versa. I would say, and I'm sure this is true for 99.9% of people, having children has humbled me. That is God's instant humbling method. I mean, I used to not be the most gracious person when it came to dealing with people. That's just my MO, right? I'm very like 100 miles an hour, doing 50 things at the same time. I'm very ADHD, but that's my superpower. And so I didn't have a lot of grace for people who had things going on in life, right? Especially like moms.
Yeah.
And oh boy, was that a rude awakening. God humbled me. You know, I know that family comes first and foremost. So when I'm having a conversation with that other commercial broker whose child was ill, I mean, the conversation stops and I'm like, how's your child, right? So it has made me treat others, clients, but especially other professionals, because we tend to be harder on each other. It's humanized other people to me more.
Yeah.
And I am the first to say I'm sorry if I came across in any kind of way, if I was stressed or what have you. I mean, it's very rare, but not that I'm stressed, but it's just rare that I lash out to an adult. But it's made me more gracious, I'll say.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think gracious and patience, you never know how impatient you are until you have children. And man, they definitely keep you grounded. So El Paso is often referred to as both a big city and a small town. The longer you live here, the longer you realize how intertwined we all are. How does that impact the way you run your business, you build your business, both commercially and residentially?
Really, I would say because El Paso is such a relationship-driven community, I was just having this conversation this morning with an out-of-town lender who was trying to sell me on their services. And I really liked the gentleman. He was very nice. I was explaining how our community worked, right? I said, I would argue we're probably at 1 million, right? With people who it's an influx kind of city with given that we're on the border. And I said, but you'd be surprised that you would probably be connected with like the person at the grocery store in some way or another, right? And so what I've learned in this business is that it's incredibly important to be honest, to treat people fairly, because not that if no one's watching, you shouldn't do these things, but I guarantee you it will come back in one way or another in hopefully a fantastic way. You know, so-and-so was so great to me, and oh, I know them, or I know them through this other, you know, way, and they're fantastic there. But treating people with honesty and earnest intentions goes a really long way. It really does.
And I think it's why it's so important that we think about our witness as we go through our lives, right? Because in a city like this, you know, you might be on the other side of town where you don't think you know somebody, and you cut somebody off, and suddenly you realize that person does know you. Or, you know, just we think about those little moments where we have the opportunity to have a positive impact on people or a negative impact on our witness. And in a city like this, you just don't know who's watching or what impact that might have.
You don't get away with much here.
No, it's true. It's
you
very
really
true.
don't. Yeah, our community is funny in that way, that we're very self-accountable.
Yes.
Like with each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, again, goes back to the theme of community. So tell me a little bit more about your work in commercial real estate. For listeners who maybe, you know, are new to business or haven't done a whole lot in commercial real estate, what does a commercial real estate agent do?
So a commercial real estate agent operates very differently than a residential agent. When I put on my residential realtor hat, it's more so I tell my clients, you're making this decision emotionally, right? And thinking like, what checks all the boxes? I need this much space. I need this part of town, et cetera, et cetera. You think of it emotionally on just what your needs are. I do still think very business-like in the sense that I will think of a home as an investment for someone, but ultimately their needs are going to supersede maybe the financial impact over 30 years, right? Commercial is completely different. Commercial is all about the numbers. And so I would say it's critical that if you're a small business owner or big business owner in El Paso or looking to start up a business here, it's critical that and if you need a brick and mortar place, right? You might be retail or online, but if you do need somewhere to operate out of, small manufacturing, logistics, whatever the case might be, retail, you need to have a commercial realtor on your side, and that might not necessarily mean your residential realtor.
Okay.
Right? I would say probably 5% of residential realtors are equipped to handle commercial real estate.
That's interesting.
Very few.
Okay.
So I don't know how many realtors we're at right now. Maybe we're at 4,000. I don't know. There's a lot of realtors in El Paso now from when I started. There's probably, I would say, 5 to 10% of that, 200 to 400 agents who would be able to hopefully properly advise you on where to be. And it comes down to money, right?
Yeah.
And also, does the site suit my needs? What's it going to cost me? User analysis, demographics analysis if you're in retail. I mean, it's quite complex. Commercial real estate in itself is quite complex. And you will even then have specialized commercial agents. For example, I've done warehousing and logistics sales. I'm selling some warehouses. I've leased warehouses. So I'm familiar with the ins and outs of what that user might need.
Got it.
They're ultimately the expert, but I'm familiar with it.
Yeah.
And I've done land acquisitions for physicians if they're going to develop and build practices. That's a different kind of user, right?
Yeah.
So being able to know and use software, et cetera, it's quite a big change from residential real estate.
Yeah.
So make sure, in short, that you hire a true expert or somebody who's very well versed in what you're needing.
Yeah.
And know that there are limitations if you're working with an agent who's just done residential real estate.
Yeah. That's a great reminder. I had no idea that it was so nuanced when you got into commercial real estate. So I think that's really important. When you look at Colossians 3:23, we talked about that at the beginning of the podcast of serving the Lord with all your heart. What does working unto the Lord look like for you in this season?
My season of life right now is kind of funny, right? And I'm sure this resonates with a lot of moms,
Yeah.
working moms, right? And even not even stay-at-home moms, which is like the dream job / hardest job in the world. I go back and forth, right?
Yeah.
I wish that we could truly, honestly afford for me to be able to do that. Although I don't know that my family would want me to do that.
Yeah.
But to me, what it means is serving God in the tiers is kind of how I see it, that he meant for us to serve. Serving him first and foremost, serving our family that he's gifted us with, serving our community, and that, and forgive me, I'm like going on a tangent and I forgot the question, but to me it means serving each other. If you wake up every day and you decide to, I'm going to serve my children in the way that they need, or my spouse in the way that they need, or the community without expecting anything in return.
Yeah.
I think that's like the key part, right? A lot of people in life we find are giving really to just get. It's like, what can I get out of somebody?
Yeah.
Which I will say our community is special in that we're not that kind of community. I really do believe that. El Paso is a special bubble that we live in. But if we live our day every day thinking of how we can serve others, I mean, you could change your child's life, you could change your marriage, you could change your community. I mean, it just domino effects, right? You just ripple it out. And that's inherently going to be good for you.
Yeah.
It really is. But that to me means serving God.
Yeah. It is easy to, it's easier to think about serving those people that are close to us. And then you walk into the workplace and it's about yourself, right? Like, I am building my company, I am building my career, I am building my book of business, when really what God would call us to is exactly what you're saying. We walk all of our lives and say, I am serving. What can I do for you? And I think you're right. I think when we keep our focus on that, God really blesses that. What kind of impact do you hope that your work has on the El Paso community in the long term?
Ooh, I would say I fell in love with real estate because I really sincerely feel like it is the most attainable way of changing people's future generations or their life just as it is now.
Yeah.
It's an accessible way for them to grow financially, to be stable. And if I can help at least even like plant the seed for that, even if they don't buy a house with me or lease a warehouse with me or whatever it is, if I can plant the seed for that person to want to take those steps, that will be a win. Obviously, I'd love for our brokerage and our team and whoever I'm working with to benefit from it, but I truly think that it helps with upward mobility for people.
Yeah.
One story I like to share is that I grew up with my mom, being a single mom, and she bought her first house, our first house, when I was, what was I? I was a freshman in high school. It was the same year that all of this was happening. And it changed our lives.
Yeah.
I mean, it gave her more stability. It gave me more stability. And she just paid that house off early, which was like such a huge, monumental thing for us to celebrate. She's in a much better place in life, but it's funny how that little townhome still meant so much.
Yeah.
But it has the ability to change people's lives.
Yeah.
Not just in a financial aspect, but in terms of stability. Like,
Yeah.
I really do believe real estate provides that.
Yeah. That's amazing. Well, it has been an absolute pleasure having you on the podcast. If listeners would like to find out more about you and the services you offer, where can they go?
So they can call me. My number is 915-422-5412. I'm also probably the most active on Instagram. My handle is elpasos.realtor. on Instagram. And I also have a website with my partner with our hero program. She's my sister-in-law. Our website is longenbaughgroup.com. And those are the 3 easy ways to find me. But my cell phone is the easiest, fastest way to reach me.
Okay, awesome. Well, we'll make sure we link to all of those things from the 323 podcast website. And yeah, I hope we can talk again soon.
Thank you so much, Tiffany. Thank you.
If God is writing a story in your workplace, we'd love to hear about it. You can share it with us by visiting 323podcast.com. That's the numbers 323podcast.com. We'll be back again next week with more great conversations on connecting your Sunday faith to your Monday life. Until then, may God bless your work this week. May He renew your strength, deepen your joy, and remind you that you're serving Him in all you do.